this video I'm going to show you how to assign an ARP or arpeggio to be played in a performance. And we're actually going to assign different ARP patterns to be played with different scenes, which is some of the functionality of having a scene, being able to switch the arpeggio patterns that are being played. And then because all these changes that we do to a performance, because these aren't saved and there's no way to overwrite and save a preset performance, because you have to save these into a user bank, I'm actually going to show you how to do that step as well at the end. So for this particular lesson, I've chose a electronic bass sound that has a single part, and it's called Bass Morpher. You can get to this by clicking on the category search and then clicking on bass. And I believe if you at the top page here, you can see one down is Bass Morpher, and you can just press the home button to go back to that home screen for the performance there. So if we take a look at this over here on the left, there's no ARP assigned. Even if you turn it on and press a key, there is no ARP that plays along there. So we definitely need to set up some of these assignments. And because we're going to store these in with a scene, there's also another additional step that you have to do. Over here on the left, if you click on scene, you actually have to turn on what's called memory in the memory tab. And you actually have to turn on each one of these functions that you want the scene to be able to remember even before you write. So it's kind of like a double step here. It's a little bit hard to kind of understand why Yamaha set it up this way, but so we're going to set up 3 different scenes. If you click on the different tabs there and just make sure and turn on ARP for each one of these scenes. Now also, each scene doesn't necessarily remember every change that's made, especially for the ARP, so you can't for scene 1 dial in a different ARP pattern and use the same ARP or arpeggio. You actually have to select a different ARP to be running in the different scene, and then you have to switch off the previous ARP in the other scene. So think about this. On scene 1, we're going to have ARP 1 playing. Scene 2, we're going to have ARP 2 playing. And then in scene 3, we're going to have ARP 3 playing. So this is all the setups that we have to do in order to start doing these assignments for the arpeggio. So if you click on motion control here, there's a sub tab called arpeggio. Just make sure you have that selected there. So now we're actually on scene 3, and you can see that because scene 3 is lit, and then you can see ARP 3 is active there as well. But we don't have any assignments to the part. They're turned off, so we can actually turn this on, and then we can go in and do a search, and you can do category search here based on what type of pattern it is, and you have subs as well. So let's go ahead and click on bass and then house bass and select any one here. That'll be fine just for demonstration purposes. And next, let's exit out of this, and then let's go back to this screen. And now we're going to assign this to scene 3. So to do this, hold down Shift and press 3, and it says scene stored. Okay, so now we can go to scene 2 by clicking on button 2, or if you want to, you can click on the scene tab here and you can click on scene 2 there. So anytime you click on these, it jumps over to these different scenes. So you can do that a couple different ways there. So next, let's go back to motion control again. And for this scene 2, now we have to do a pattern assignment for this ARP to play as well. So we can click on search again, go to bass, and we'll click a different pattern this time. Something like that. Let's go ahead and exit. And then we're going to store this one into scene 2. So hold down Shift, press scene 2, it says scene stored. And then we can go to scene 1. And again here, just do this ARP assignment. Let's go to bass. And you don't have to do bass, of course, there's guitars and other different instruments there, or style patterns that would play, but we can click on any of these here. I want to find something that sounds a little different so we know that it's changing. Something like that maybe. Let's exit out of this and then hold down Shift and press the number 1 scene there. So now we can exit and go back to the performance screen, and we can hold down the keys here, and we can actually at the same time hold down a key while the ARP's playing and then transition to each one of these 3 scenes. Another thing that's kind of cool is if you look at this, you can see they're dimly lit, showing that there is some scene information stored in there, and then the brightest lit one shows the one that's active. Now if we scrolled away to a different bass sound, or if we went to a live set and chose a different performance, none of these scene settings would be in here. So, and there's no way to store this in place. You actually have to store this into a user preset. So to do this, click on the store button over here on the right, and then the only option you have here, you could be editing a user preset and there's a whole other set of options that kind of pop up here, but if you're storing from an original preset performance and it's not a user set, then you only have one option. So it says store as new performance, and then we can go in and name this. Let's call this I like to kind of sometimes leave these the same but then add something else in, so I'll just call this user, so we know. We also may add something like this with ARP, so we'll just call this ARP to know that we added in an ARP there. So click done, and now you can see that that is stored in there. So then if we click on this search actually to find this, you'll look at the banks here. Most of the time you're going to be looking through all, but if you're wanting to find a specific user preset rather than the factory presets, you'd click on user for the bank, and then you can see that's saved in there. And then if we go to all, we can be looking at all of those presets in there. So let's go ahead and switch back to just the presets, the user presets, and let's click on bass morpher here. So again, we don't have the ARP assignment, and then go back to the user preset we just stored right there, and then we do have the ARP assignment.